The toy purchases are primarily driven by what the children want.
I like to buy from big corporations because I hope that they are doing their research and I hope that they know what's going into their products.
If I go shopping at a store, can I assume that any toy I pull off the shelf is safe? And I would say no.
Our kind of instinctive reaction is that reusing is good. And this is one situation where that's probably not true. I always tell people that it does actually make a difference what they buy. Companies are being allowed to go to chemicals that are just as problematic. Yeah.
I don't think there's a company in the toy industry that knowingly would put a toxic toy on the market.
Hi, my name is Jen. I'm a mommy blogger at One Heart, One Family. Let's go on in and talk toys.
Come on, Jason. Run so you don't fall. This is where the magic begins. Where the magic begins.
Shh, stop.
Oh yeah, who's that?
It's Batman. Star Batman.
Star Batman.
I'm a mom of 3, and I am the primary blogger for One Heart, One Family, which is a mommy blog that does product reviews, focuses on parenting tips, and dealing with life with celiac disease. We test out toys, home products. When I've had my first son, I didn't know much about the toxins in children's toys and clothes when I kind of trusted what was put on the shelves and just assumed that it was safe. When I had my second child, we were reusing all the same bottles that we had used on our first child. And that was around the time that the big BPA scare in baby bottles came out. Another scenario that we hit was when my second son was around 2 years old. There was a big scare with Thomas the Tank Engine and using lead in the paints that were using it.
The toy purchases are primarily driven by what the children want.
I know there's been a lot of problems with things coming from China, so I'm a little leery of it. Flame retardant I do look for in clothing, just because the idea of a child passing over a candle or something and it being able to catch on fire is very frightening. I like to buy from big corporations because I hope that they are doing their research and I hope that they know what's going into their products.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm
Hi.
Jen from
Rick.
One Heart, One Family.
Hey, Rick Smith. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to check out this store a little bit.
Awesome. So, what's the store different than shopping anywhere else?
Everything in this store is organic, is non-toxic. It always makes me really optimistic to see the change in products like that, where 5 years ago it would have contained phthalates. It would have contained all sorts of nasty things.
Mostly plastic.
Yeah, and now it's made out of natural latex. It's been a real change, a real improvement, I think, in kids' products.
Can you explain what a phthalate is?
The phthalates are both used to make rubbery products more rubbery, and phthalates also carry scent well. So it's still the case that a lot of scented products that you use in the bathroom or even cleaning products around the house, air fresheners, would have a very high percentage of phthalates in them.
What do you look for when buying a bath toy? What should you avoid?
Well, I think bath toys are particularly important to pay attention to because kids put them in their mouths.
I worry about the water sitting in it and the effects that it would have on the product that it's made of.
If your kids are anything like mine, I mean, they chew and they suck and
Everything goes in the mouth, yeah.
And so in our experiments over our 2 books, there's no question that the most direct and kind of potent source for these toxic chemicals is what kids ingest. Products that come in contact with the skin. There's a really strong bunch of scientific evidence now linking phthalates to malformations in reproductive systems of little boys. You can actually measurably reduce phthalate levels in your body very quickly.
How long would it be? Would it be months, years,
A
days?
matter of hours.
Oh, really?
I always tell people that It does actually make a difference what they buy. The first difference is, the direct benefit to your kid.
Yep.
But then the kind of secondary benefit of supporting companies in the marketplace that are trying to do things differently.
Definitely.
And frankly,
Bringing awareness to it.
and withholding your dollars from companies that don't really care.
Yep.
As people that care about the environment, our kind of instinctive reaction is that reusing is good. And this is one situation where that's probably not true. One of the issues that's come up in the last few years is what we're replacing toxic chemicals with. And a lot of companies have replaced the coatings of water bottles like this. They've moved away from BPA and they moved towards this chemical called BPS, which actually turns out to be very similar and has all the same problems and hasn't been properly safety tested. BPA-free, phthalate-free. So consumers now,
They want to see that.
as opposed to 5 years ago, know what to look for, and they're demanding BPA-free products. As those chemicals are being replaced, these companies are being allowed to go to chemicals that are just as problematic.
Interesting.
Yeah. One of the other kind of interesting but horrible things is the fact that recently firefighter unions have become leaders in the fight against flame retardants. It's firefighters that breathe it in and that are getting hit with cancers. And it turns out that flame retardants aren't that great anyway at retarding flame.
So they're pointless.
So they're completely pointless, which is one of the, it's like modern day snake oil,
Yeah.
right? Pretty sure that firefighter unions would not be fighting a chemical if it actually had a point
If it worked.
in stopping fires. As people that care about the environment, our kind of instinctive reaction is that reusing is good, right? And recycling stuff is good, and using hand-me-downs is good. And this is one situation where that's probably not true. There's no question that kids' sleepwear from 5 or 10 years ago is more likely to have flame retardants slathered all over it than it is today. And it's certainly the case that a rubber duck or a soother from 5 or 10 years ago was full of phthalates and BPA. Probably not so much today. So
It makes you feel like a horrible mom giving it to them. Giving my oldest child the soother filled with phthalates.
very nice.
Rick, what if you don't have the money? What if you aren't able to buy all this stuff? Are you essentially setting your kid up for failure, health-wise?
I've thought about that question a lot because, my family's not wealthy, right? Most of my friends aren't wealthy. This issue has really changed over the last few years. Any Walmart, any Loblaws, any Costco has an increasing amount of organic food, organic products, because people are demanding it. You got to pick your battles, you got to prioritize. There are something like 80,000 synthetic chemicals in commerce today. You can't worry yourself sick about 80,000 separate chemicals. You have to prioritize.
Today we're at the University of Toronto in the Earth Science Department to talk to Professor Diamond about toxicity in toys. Hi, Professor Diamond. I'm Jen. Thank you for having us here
Jen,
in the lab.
thank you so much for being here. We know a shockingly little amount about many chemicals that are widely used. Our research looks at nasty chemicals in the environment, including our homes.
I know one of the big concerns in children's products is BPA, and that's recently been removed from most products.
It's been removed from kids' baby bottles.
That's it?
Well, you can get bisphenol A-free drinking bottles, but then we have to ask the question, what has bisphenol A been replaced with?
Is the chemical it's being replaced with any better than what BPA was?
We don't know, but evidence is starting to suggest that some of the replacements could have more adverse effects than bisphenol A.
So it's worse than what we originally started off with.
That's possible. The way we work in the sort of the toxic chemical field is that a large body of information is gathered about one particular chemical, like bisphenol A, to say, this presents a hazard and we ought to do something about it. So then the replacement comes in, and over the next 5, 10 years, more information is gathered on the replacement, and sometimes those replacements turn out to be even worse than the original compound.
I know you did a study on flame retardant.
So what a flame retardant does is to reduce the flammability of a product. Okay. So instead of sort of having these huge flames shoot out, the product, if it catches on fire, may smolder. It'll produce soot and carbon monoxide. One of the greatest causes of death and injury in fires is actually carbon monoxide, not the flames themselves. I don't want to upset you further, but the question is, are my kids going to be left with this burden of chemical forever and ever? What we're most concerned about is the exposure of the fetus. There's evidence to suggest that exposure to these compounds changes levels of your thyroid hormone that are circulating. That can cause changes in the fetal brain that can be then manifested as neurobehavioral problems, autistic spectrum disorder, and ADHD-like behaviors. If I go shopping at a store, can I assume that any toy I pull off the shelf is safe? And I would say, no. Canada's not funding environmental research well, neither is the US. I shouldn't be turning to industry to obtain information on the safety of products. The government, as a neutral party, should be entrusted with providing that information.
When you're looking at things that are consumables or like face paints and nail polishes, I think not something that Mattel typically does, but again, you're seeing, as you've seen here today, a trend, a move towards making those organic and safer for children.
We're here at the Ontario Science Centre to test out the hot toys for summer with the Canadian Toy Association. Let's go down and see some toys. You excited? What toy do you want to see? Tyson? No, walking over here. Playmobil?
Yeah.
Use your arms, push. Push with your arms. Put the camera inside here. Great job. Okay, see it. Oh, I see. They're too close.
We think safety is really, really important, and so, we wouldn't actively add something to a toy or change a toy to make it unsafe.
Does Mattel take extra care when a product is made out of country?
It's tested locally, and most of our retailers will have will require a testing certificate that it's been tested in a local lab. So those are retailer requirements as well as our own.
What is Mattel doing towards organic and green products and natural products?
Wood toys, Thomas, the tank engine in its wood form is just a wonderful natural toy. And what you're seeing is actually some of those traditional wood toys coming back. We're coming out with a line of Fisher-Price toys that are wood as well. And when you're looking at things that are consumables or like face paints and nail polishes, I think not something that Mattel typically does, but again, you're seeing a move towards making those organic and safer for children.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm a
Hi,
blogger
Jen.
for One Heart, One Family.
Hi, George Irwin Toy.
Nice to meet you.
This is my grandfather who actually started the company. My dad and my uncle were the two guys that built it up in the 60s. And then myself, a couple of brothers and cousins joined the business in the 70s. This particular product, you probably remember,
Slinky.
called Slinky.
Oh, yes.
Everyone had to have one. Probably the most famous toy that Irwin Toy is known for is Jenga.
Yep, that was a classic in my family.
And this goes back again to the 80s.
But you start all over putting blocks on top. Jenga from Irwin. Great game with a strange name.
We have an item called Ken, which is an electronic Sudoku type of game. Oopsie Daisy Doll was...
Oopsie Daisy, I owned one of those.
Did you?
Oh, yes.
Ooh, well, that's dating me then. That doll was revolutionary in its day.
Oh, definitely. It was the first doll that moved by itself,
yeah,
I believe.
It crawled, it fell down, got back up.
She crawls to me as nice as can be. Oopsie daisy.
Is guilt used as a marketing tool? Yes. Whether it's a car or a juvenile product or a toy, I think there is a certain amount of guilt or envy, or you didn't have this when you were a kid, but maybe you should think about it for your son or daughter. I think those are all tools that are being used. Governments have said, okay, we need to regulate toys. I don't think there's a company in the toy industry that knowingly would put a toxic toy on the market. We have created the first sugar-free, 100% healthy candy. Lemon, chocolate, and 0 sugar, 0 calories.
I like that kind of candy.
It's,
It tastes really good.
yeah. It's like almost like a sweet tart.
So you're a third generation
Third, yeah.
toy maker.
Right.
How have you seen toy safety change over the years? Have toys gotten safer?
I think the answer to the question, and you're probably not going to like it, is they haven't really gotten safer. They were safe to begin with. What's happened is governments have said, okay, we need to regulate toys, and so they put in a lot of requirements for toy makers to go through in testing. But most of us, the ones who really were caring about it, and I'm talking about, you know, the Hasbros, the Mattels, the Irwins, the Spin Masters, Tech for Kids, they were always testing to those types of standards. Mm-hmm. The quality of product coming out of China is every bit as good as it is in any other part of the world. Squishy is a product we introduced about 1.5 years ago. Totally safe. It's a little gritty, but, you know, it's better than eating ants. There are companies who will make nothing but organic toys. Mm-hmm. Their distribution is usually very limited in specialty stores selling to the mom who can afford to buy organic only product. In our math, if we take a $39.99 doll mm-hmm. and now all of a sudden it's $59.99, the number of people that can buy that doll has dropped significantly. I then have to figure out, well, okay, can we sell enough product to pay off all of the development costs? 9 times out of 10, you don't make money. Well, the environmental impact of toys in the whole world scheme of things is probably minimal. I don't think there's a company in the toy industry that knowingly would put a toxic toy on the market. The toy industry is one of the most regulated industries in the world.
Rick Smith was very informative. He brought up a lot of concerns that I had never heard of before, a lot of things I never thought of. I think he was very practical in the way that he told us what we could do in the way of providing our children with organic and natural products, even if we couldn't afford the high price tags. But what I learned from Professor Diamond is that there's a lot of ingredients going into toys that we don't know the effects that they'll have on our children. I didn't realize that the way recalls are created and the way that they discover problems with chemicals is an after the effect thing. I always thought that ingredients that were put into toys were tested beforehand. They see the product on the market, they do the testing after the fact, and it's then that they discover the problems.
George Irwin's philosophy on making toys and the idea that they're there for the safety of the kids, and all the toy manufacturers are out there to create toys that won't harm a child. That's their biggest concern. He believes that they are safe to the best of the manufacturer's knowledge. The products that they're doing safe, they're following government standard. They're going above and beyond to test the products coming out of different places, like he said, from the creation of the wheel to the whole creation of the car. Every step along the way is tested, but it's the unknowns that we don't know. I believe that manufacturers and the government are doing the best that they can, but there seems to be a hole or a gap that's missing, that chemicals and toxins are being used without knowing the effects because they make a good product. Going organic is probably the best thing you could do for your child. Unfortunately, we all can't afford to do that. So I would say that Rick Smith and Professor Diamond were more persuasive in their understanding of the chemicals and toxins that are in toys versus the manufacturers. I think I'm gonna take Rick's tips and the things that my children use most often, pillows, mattresses, that I'm going to move towards organic and natural fibers. Unfortunately, I can't afford to buy all natural and organic, even though I would love to. And there's things that my children want that aren't going to be on that list, and I can't deprive them from their Barbie dolls and their Tonka trucks. It's a part of life. I'll be more cautious if I'm seeing them put it in their mouth, keeping them away from it, but I'll still continue to buy from those brands.